In this video, we're going to be talking about the other senses of our body, not just our sight and our hearing, but we'll need to know all of our other senses. And there are more than just three remaining senses to talk about. So we're going to get into those. And we will also still talk about our sense of smell, our sense of taste, and our sense of touch. So let's move right into that. Couple of objectives here for the next few slides. Just talking about body awareness, talking about sense of touch and how the skin acts as a organ. We'll talk about the chemical senses, which are different from the others, and we'll talk about how culture influences perception. So, you might know this, but your sense of balance comes from a part of our body that is actually located in the ear. This is what's called the vestibular system. The vestibular system is what allows us to balance and what allows us to be aware of our body's position. The vestibular system is responsible for the fact that, like, I know right now my hand is directly behind my head, even though I can't see that. And I promise you I'm not looking at the image, which is actually on another screen. But I know that it's behind my head just because of my vestibular system. I'm aware of my body parts as they move through space. It is these three curved semicircular canals that are responsible for basically our 3D awareness. You can see that the three of them there are defining the three dimensions in space. And just like the cochlea, these are also filled with fluid and tiny hair-like cells in them that respond to movement. So the vestibular system and the semicircular canals allow us to understand movement. If you get car sick, the reason why you're getting car sick is your semicircular canals are activating that you're moving, right? Because you are. But usually your eyes are not. So, for example, I don't get car sick a lot, but I have a hard time reading in cars when I'm not driving. And that's because what's happening is if I'm, like, say, looking at my phone, right, my eyes aren't moving in the same way that the world is moving around me. So there's a discrepancy between my visual systems and my vestibular system. That usually results in feelings of uneasiness, because when you feel dizzy without moving, that's usually a response that you ate something you shouldn't have. Maybe it's poison and your body is trying to get rid of it, which is why you feel like you have an upset stomach if you get car sick. It all has to do with movement. So if that happens to you, the cure for car sickness is to try to look at the horizon. That way you can see all the things moving past you, and that can recalibrate your vestibular system that, oh, no, it's okay, we are moving. I'm not staying still and feeling like the world's moving around me. I'm actually moving through the world, and that should cut down on your car sickness. So vestibular system, responsible for balance, body's movement. Do not confuse this with the kinesthetic system. Kinesthetic system is knowing that the kinesthetic sense is our sense of movement. So the fact that I know that my arm is moving, again, without looking at it, is my kinesthetic sense. Okay, there was a question on an FRQ a few years back that the phrase was kinesthetic sense. And if you said anything about, like, body awareness in terms of space, it was wrong. Kinesthetic sense is like why you're able to walk without looking at your feet. Or why you're able to, like hand-eye coordination. Like, those things are kinesthetic sense. It's movement that your body's aware of, and producing movement, not movement through the world, but producing movement through the body. That's the kinesthetic sense. I'm foreseeing that there's going to be questions about that, so let me know if any come up. Let's move on to our sense of touch. So you probably heard that the skin is the largest organ in the body. And how it works is that there are nerve receptors in the skin that respond to a number of different things, mostly pressure. And that pressure then is translated into things of feelings of warmth or pain or whatever. Most of the time, the skin is just taking in vibrations and pressure. But there's also pain receptors. Um, oh, sorry, I thought there's another image there. Pain receptors in the skin that is responsible for alerting the body that you've been hurt. Um, but if you remember in our bio unit, we talked about endorphins, right? The neurotransmitter that is a pain reliever. So this system is intimately tied. Um, and those pain messages can be blocked in the brain, whether that's through the release of endorphins or through drugs. Um, and this helps support what's called the gate theory of pain perception. So, gate theory of pain perception is basically if you've ever seen someone who has or heard a story of someone who's like broken their leg but finished the football game or something like that, or someone who was severely injured who didn't feel any pain at the time. Um, the thought process is that there's this your body just shuts down, produces these endorphins so that you don't feel the pain, this usually severe pain that you are in the moment. um, I have a story where I had a pretty gnarly injury um, on my knee, and when it happened, I remember screaming my head off, but it didn't actually really hurt. It was more of an adrenaline thing. But what happened was my brain released adrenaline and um, endorphins, so that I actually didn't feel the pain until a few hours later, um, and now forever in my life chronically. But that's okay. Just would have been a lot worse if it was if I felt it all at the same time or in the moment. Um, so yeah, so that's really our sense of touch. It's pretty broad. Your book goes into more details about the pressure, the pain, the warmth, and wetness, and the other sensations that the skin can detect. So I'll leave that for the book to go into. Okay, our chemical senses. Our sense of smell and our sense of taste are unlike any of our other bodily senses in that they are respondent to chemicals in the environment. As opposed to waves, which we see both in vision and in hearing, olfaction, or the sense of smell, is possible through molecules of chemicals in the air that get inhaled through the nose. As they go through the nose, there's mucous membranes that are associated in the nasal cavity that have a variety of olfactory receptor cells that are kind of responsible for each different type of molecule. So really, when you smell something, what happens is these odorant molecules, right? These molecules that have an odor associated with it, enter your body, which is kind of a weird way to think about it. That when you smell something, that is literally something foreign entering your body, and your body then making sense of that through our sense of smell. As these molecules land on these receptor sites, similar to how neurons work, that then can trigger a neural reaction to the axons of the olfactory receptor cells, which then send that information into the thalamus. I lied. It does not go to the thalamus. It goes right to the olfactory cortex, which is along the lines here. I'll show you in a second. So how this process works, again, you breathe in, odorant molecules are in the air, just floating in the air. They enter your nose. They attach to a specific olfactory receptor cell. That olfactory receptor cell is then connected to, by a series of axons, to specific neurons that then fire and send information to the olfactory cortex, which is in the olfactory bulb, which is right kind of like below your eye, if you look at this image here. And smell is different in the sense, smell is different in the sense that instead of going to the thalamus, the odorant molecules get routed directly to the olfactory cortex, which is located right around a few main parts of the brain that you should know: the hippocampus and the limbic system, and the amygdala. So think of the hippocampus. You should know that the hippocampus is involved with memory formation, right? have you ever smelled something and then been like, oh my God, that smells like my grandmother's house? It smelled when I was 5 before she moved. Or, oh my gosh, that's my, ex-girlfriend's perfume that I just smelled on a stranger in a crowd. Smells have this tendency to snap back memories. And part of the reason is the fact that, one, uh, our sense of smell is not routed into the thalamus. So the information that's processed by the olfactory cortex is very much still emotionally charged. So when we have things like the amygdala and the limbic system that are right there as well, you have all of these emotions that come back. So whether that's the memory, or again, like you're smelling your ex's perfume or cologne, and that's what's making you have this emotional reaction to this smell that the stranger walked by. But that's why smells are so intimately connected to our uh, our memories, right? That's why we can still remember how things smell like, or can be transplanted back to an earlier time, or another moment in our lives based off of just a quick smell of something. Okay, we can't talk about our sense of smell without talking about sensory interaction. Sensory interaction is this phenomenon where our senses combine to produce a unique experience. So we might be able to do something with this in class. It depends. COVID is kind of tough, but if we can, we will. If I can figure it out, it's a shame they took the tent down, but maybe we can figure something out. Um, but basically, uh, our sense of smell and our sense of taste are intimately connected. You probably have heard of that before, where you hear like phrases that a certain percentage of our sense of taste is our sense of smell. That's actually true. Uh, some estimates, they're pretty high. They're a lot higher than you think. But also our sense of sight. So uh, both the smell and the texture of something can influence how we understand it. So the strawberry, right? So this example is pretty mild. The texture it is on the tongue, the smell as you're eating it. You probably know that your nasal cavity and your throat, mouth are all connected. It's all one big open system. So it makes sense that what is actually flavor for the most part is just the odorant molecules going the wrong way into your nose as you chew on things. Also, our sense of sight. You've ever, you've heard the phrase like you eat with your eyes first, right? That's why, like at fancy restaurants, the presentation matters. Things need to look appetizing to eat. If it doesn't look appetizing, you're probably not going to like it, no matter how good it tastes, because that's again a part of sensory interaction. Let's talk about our actual sense of taste, though. Obviously, this is important, right? It's what tells us if food is good or bad to eat, or a food that is dangerous to eat or something like that. So, as a result, we have taste receptors on our tongue that respond to specific kinds of molecules that convey information on whether or not food is safe or not to eat. Your You might remember that there was that we have four areas, taste areas. Maybe if you're like me, it was like, oh, the sweet is on the tip of your tongue, and then the salty is in the middle, and then sour's on the sides, and bitters in the back. Maybe that's something you remember. That's actually not really all that true. Um, so if what I said was just news to you, then ignore it forever. Um, there are clusters of our taste buds, um, but they are not that specialized like that. They are specialized for specific types of foods, though. So there are sweet taste receptors and salty taste receptors, but they're not necessarily located in one area of the tongue. So first up, you have these bumps on the tongue called papillae. They are loaded. Each papilla is loaded with a number of taste buds that are what take the chemicals that you're eating and transform that into uh, uh, neural information through the taste receptor cells inside of the many taste buds. So there are 6 types of receptors that we've discovered so far. I'll say so far because we know of the four, but there's actually six. We know that sweet receptors are for sugary things, sour receptors are for acids, salty is for salt, and bitter is usually kind of a broad range of things that are bad for you. Bitter things typically are harmful in the environment, so it makes sense that we have a bitter thing. But the two more that you might not know, one is spicy. On our tongue, we actually do have spicy sensors that detect capsaicin, which is the spicy chemical that's found inside of peppers and really all other spicy foods. So that's important to understand that we do have a sense of spice, or really even maybe pain. But the other one is umami, which is a meaty, kind of protein-rich, meaty flavor. So this is, cooked meats. Mushrooms are high in umami. It's a sense that it is a flavor that is usually overlooked when talking about our sense of taste. So some numbers here. Each papilla, so tongue has many papillae. Each papilla can have up to 100 taste buds, and these taste buds in turn can each have 50 to 150 taste receptor cells. Okay, so we're talking about very, very minute differences in these taste receptor cells. They're geared towards specific flavors so that they are, responding accordingly. So that's our sense of taste. Notice that the sense of taste and the sense of smell both are chemical driven, not wave driven. So that's something that puts them out separately. Some people say that with sensory interaction, we know that there's this connection between smell and taste. So if you've ever been given medicine that tastes bad, a good way to get past that is just to hold your nose as you take it. Your sense of taste is mostly in your sense of smell. So while it won't perfectly get rid of it, it could help the medicine go down. And the last thing I want to mention, and maybe this is a little too on the nose here for us in our COVID times, but there are individual differences in perception. So in some places, fruit bat pie is a delicacy. So this is like a chicken pot pie, but instead of a chicken, it is a full fruit bat. And if you are having a hard time seeing the fruit bat, those are its teeth and those are its eyes. And its wing and all that stuff. You just put the whole bat inside the pie and bake it. Remember what I just said about sensory adaptation or sensory interaction, and if things don't look appetizing, you might not ever want to try fruit bat pie, no matter how good it might taste, just because that looks pretty gnarly, at least to us in the West. In Eastern cultures, that probably looks just as good as a chicken pot pie. So we know that perception is culturally relevant, that there are certain foods that some people like because that's what they've grown accustomed to. That just is what it is. So perception is both biologically conditioned. So think about taste. We are disposed to dislike bitter and sour tasting things in general, right? Obviously, a lemonade is good, and not all bitter things are bad for you, right? There's really good lettuces that are a little bitter that are healthy for you, but generally speaking, right, our body has this mechanism of bitter food is probably bad. You should stay away from it. But you can also have these individual people who say, nah, I actually really like bitter food, or I really enjoy a nice sour, like super tart, like make my mouth water, it's so sour, types of foods. And that's just, our individual differences. So that's where we're going to end with the fruit bat pie. I don't know. If I'm ever in Palau, I'll look out for it, but I can't tell you that I'll actually eat it. But anyway, so that's it for the rest of our senses. We will take some more notes in class. And if you guys have any questions, you know how to reach out to me. Until next time.